Hiding the millennial reign of Christ and how Satan has deceived the nations once again.
So some Christians are very perplexed about what is going on with this movement and the understanding of the millennial reign of Christ. We've read about it in the book of Revelation, where it said that Christ would return and reign for 1,000 years. But for the past 70 years, we have been taught that this millennial reign is yet to come.
Following information is from the book Reason to Believe. This is a book like none other you have ever read. The sole purpose of this book is to wake the Protestant Christian up to the reality that a satanic force has hijacked the Christian nations of the world. They are also working through some of the mainstream churches and their doctrines of deception to keep the body of Christ, a docile, ineffective body, crippled by a lack of knowledge. Many pastors are part of a controlling body or national organization, and those national church organizations are neutering them from speaking about subjects that would save our nations from destruction. To appease the large donators, dark will these pastors fail to expose the agenda of evil that prevent the deaths of millions of Christians in wars and medical genocides.
Through manipulations of numbers and times and events, through the use of media, through the use of movies, how they had implanted messages from the time we were children, coupled with these pastors teaching these false messages. There were books written like the Left Behind series. There were movies, constant implantations into our mind, which made the entire church believe this so strongly that any other teaching, any other words against this caused cognitive dissonance on our level. And this goes all the way up to Washington, D.C. We had a legal republic that was established, but then they came in sometime after the Civil War, and a corporation was formed out of the United States, and they made everyone in the United States, living person, this legal fiction, a debtor to this. When we are supposed to be a creditor, we're supposed to be the living representative of God. Yet we read that Jesus said multiple times that those standing there would not die. They would not pass away till they saw the coming of the Son of Man. I know a lot of you are facing hard times right now in your emotional state due to the things that are going on in the world. Some of you would like to turn to Jesus Christ for help, but you don't know how. In fact, the whole entire world, the media everywhere, seems to be working against the idea that this is even a viable thing in this day and age.
And they all got mega churches and huge mansions and private airplanes. They all got all of these special perks and worldwide things, castles, story upon story with columns and archways. The archway in some of these structures is getting into math and construction that makes the average carpenter's life a nightmare because of the precision involved in constructing it, in the bending of the wood, in the creating of multiple stories on top of it, the creating of the perfection within it, and the aesthetics within all of that. How these things have been done to us. Most people, I'm going to tell you this right now. So if you're weak, if you can't handle being able to change your mind about something, if you can't take that, it's basically like a magic trick. If you can't take that someone has done a magic trick to you, if you can't accept that Satan is so wise and so cunning that he deceived 1/3 of the angels to follow him in heaven, that he couldn't fool you, if you can't accept these types of things, then this book will not be for you, because you basically
You basically have to be able to rethink and understand the world of deception that's going on in Satan's short season.
An old man once told me that in Greek, nostalgia literally means the pain of an old wound. The twinge in your heart, far more powerful than memories alone. This book isn't a spaceship, it's a time machine. It travels backwards and forwards, reminding us of a place and time we'd like to feel and go again. It's a mirror and a looking glass into who and what stole our memories and our children's future. Our feeling of peace, like a child feels in his mother's arms. It awakens you to who's been stealing your dreams from a time when we all felt peace and love. We know who you are, and you'll never fool us again.
The belief now in this millennial reign that took place are the theories surrounding these buildings we are finding, these ancient cities and these castles, these enormous, beautiful architectural structures that literally make no sense to anyone who's ever done any kind of construction or worked in any industry of artistry, to thinking that the historical narrative that the liars told us about ox carts and primitive living in the Middle Ages and donkeys and all of these sorts of things, that they, with their technology, with their soft bronze chisels, cut millions of bricks, large bricks, and carried them up on top of the side of mountains and built enormous castles with beautiful architecture, with gold and marble and fine materials, with primitive technology.
Language of Satan to deceive us all. The republic still exists in the background. But in the foreground, what we have going on is a fiction, a corporation. The United States was formed into the United States Incorporated. Language of Satan to deceive us all. The republic still exists in the background. But in the foreground, what we have going on is a fiction, a corporation. The United States was formed into the United States Incorporated.
Go through a lot of mental gymnastics, which I'm not willing to do, and most people are realizing was a deception. That Jesus actually kept his word. He did return, and the reason we don't know about it is because we have been deceived. Our history has been overwritten, and you can change a society in just a couple of generations, and especially using tactics of fear. We look back now into the 1800s of all these strange mental wards or these mental asylums or insane asylums. And the most bizarre thing is they were housed in these things like castles. So basically, there is no one today, no state or organization that would expend enough money to house insane people in a castle. This looks like a remnant that they stuck people in, left over from the millennial reign. People who would not stop talking about the truth, that Jesus was actually here, and that all this was a deception coming about. You find from people like Sigmund Freud talking about how religious fanaticism was one of the
key factors of someone being insane or crazy. That sounds part of a plot. It is as if Satan was released and his minions, people, flesh and blood, people working for him, turned around and took everyone who was making the claim that Jesus was already here and threw them into insane asylums. And perhaps their children were left. And these children ended up in these gigantic orphanages. We don't have orphanages anymore. Why did they have thousands of orphanages? Why were they in the 1800s or early 1900s selling children? You can find advertisements in America and Australia. Russia would have 2,500 kids a day sometimes going through and exporting them to different parts of the world. Where did all of these children come from? An old man once told me that in Greek, nostalgia literally means the pain of an old wound. The twinge in your heart, far more powerful than memories alone. This book isn't a spaceship, it's a time machine. It travels backwards and forwards, reminding us of a place and time we'd like to feel and go again. It's a mirror and a looking glass into who and what stole our memories and our children's future. Our feeling of peace, like a child feels in his mother's arms. It awakens you to who's been stealing your dreams from a time when we all felt peace and love. We know who you are, and you'll never fool us again.